Hi, Mike Boyd, Boyd Group International. Welcome to Aviation Unscripted and welcome to 2023. What I want to touch on today are some of the things that we're going over with our clients in regard to assuring air service access in the future with this very different air transportation system we have. Let me go through a couple of things. One of the challenges we have here is lack of focus. We went over this a couple of weeks ago on a unscripted we did with a snippet from our colleague, Mike Black, who said, focus, pick, know what you're after. And one of the things that has to stop or should stop is this fantasy that we have being sold to airports that just, we'll find you more airlines. More airlines to do what? More airlines to go where? What do you need the air service for? We want more flights. To where? Why? We've seen that kind of thing. It's unfortunate that so many communities are really being hornswoggled into paying a lot of money to find stuff that you can't find. The issue for every community out there is how do you have access to and from the rest of the world, and what air service can you support, and working that out. Going to more speed date meetings, I love speed date meetings, but going to speed date meetings or doing more true market studies or leakage studies, which generally speaking are more ridiculous than not in many cases. You know, the bit about, well, 600 people a day are driving up to Detroit. Well, of course they are, because there's better service there you're never going to get. Things like that. So we need focus. And that focus means, what air service are you after? And simply saying, we're going to see if we can get JetBlue. Why? Why? Well, they're another airline. Why? Where are they going to go? What are they going to do for you? So that's one of the things, is focus and know what you're after. That's the first thing. Second thing is, let's recognize that the economics of air transportation have changed completely since 2019. We'll start with this. Let's look at the pilot shortage. Now, how did we fix the pilot shortage? By raising pay. What happens when you raise pay? It means those 50-seat jets can't generate enough revenue as they used to support service into and out of a hub, say from Delta, which is getting rid of their 50-seat jets, or on American. So yeah, you're right. There's been a shortage of pilots, but to fix it means raising the rates. When you raise the rates, a lot of that air service just doesn't work anymore. And that has to be looked at as well. And add to that, what does that do is these 50-seat jets are going away. Delta will be gone by probably the third quarter. American's going to pull theirs down. They got some 65-seat CRJ 700s, but that's going to be the floor, except for the CRJ 550 program with Delta, which I think is kind of interesting. Other than that, if it can't support a 76-seat airplane, it ain't going to happen for a network carrier. Stop going after it. I've seen these communities. Don't worry, we've talked to airlines. Several are interested. No, they're not. I mean, stop. Get real here. So those new fleets are going to determine what kind of missions airlines are going to fly, and that means where they're going to go. That's what you have to look at in the next, 12 months. Another thing is, let's talk about what is the real metric regarding the value of air transportation. It's clock time, not the time it takes to fly from one airport to another. What is the clock time of the travel for the consumer? And again, we could, use the, the poster child of Detroit, which, I think a lot of, but, if they're losing 600 people a day, that's because Detroit's their airport. Detroit's their airport because it's less than an hour away to get to 300 flights a day to go nonstop, rather than go out to Express Airport and get a connection to Chicago, which has a bunch of other little issues involved with it, like misconnections and things like that. So in terms of the clock time, very often that drive up there, your connection, if you will, up to Motown is a whole lot more convenient and less clock time to get A to B than flying another local airport. That is totally ignored. In other words, the competitive options open to consumers is always put on the back burner, it seems, in many of these true market studies, rather than saying, well, what does the consumer have as an alternative? And then working through that. That's going to be a major issue as we go forward. Another thing happening in the next 12 months, the ULCC network, which is kind of exciting, has always been sort of a parallel universe to the major airlines. I mean, they really weren't flying the same stuff. I mean, Evansville to Orlando didn't take anything away from United Airlines out of Chicago to speak of. it's impulse traffic. But look at what's happened now. That model is changing dramatically, where you have Frontier and Spirit literally nipping at the margins of American Airlines at places like Phoenix and at DFW. The idea being, can they get a little bit of that traffic from Phoenix to Seattle, nipping at the edges, and can the major carrier they're going after, can they really compete or respond competitively? The question is probably not, because they're already full already, and they're looking at, they being the ULCCs, are looking at getting some stimulated traffic. But the main issue here, this is no longer exclusively or predominantly necessarily, offering low fares to generate net new traffic just to places in Florida or Phoenix or Southern California. That's a major change in what's going to be happening in regard to options, because those options now are going to be ULCCs going after major markets, not necessarily secondary markets. Then there's the other issue. Probably the most brilliant move in the last 20 years has been JetBlue acquiring, not merging with, acquiring Spirit. What does that mean? Well, when they get Spirit, they get the two things that most other carriers need: pilots and equipment, right away. They get it right away. Now, do you think they want low fare service into and out of Florida? No, they don't. They want pilots and they want airplanes, and the airplanes are probably at lower lease rates than new ones. The pilots are already there, and that means JetBlue can expand without having to go organically to try to hire more pilots necessarily. It's a brilliant move, but it takes one major ULCC pretty much out of the picture if this merger goes through, and I suspect it probably will. And I got to really congratulate JetBlue on seeing the vision here, rather than we're going to merge with somebody. No, they're buying assets, and that's brilliant. So those are the things we're looking at for the next 12 months. And what we're telling our clients is, let's stop with this bit about going after just anything willy-nilly. What exactly is out there? I mean, when I see these communities that are being hornswoggled with, we've hired someone to find more airlines, you get hornswoggled, because there's no such thing as more airlines. The issue is, do you have the air service you need and what you can attract given the economics of the air transportation system? And in many cases, we're going to be looking at some really exciting stuff. Like we've said before, places like Grand Rapids, Albany, Louisville, places like that, there's a good chance they could get international service. As a matter of fact, I think it's a certainty they're going to get international, certainly transatlantic service in the next 5 years. That's exciting. Another thing we're looking at, it's kind of on the edges, is a tertiary air transportation system where we have logistics and some passenger service within regions. Now, intra-regional air service has never worked. We've gone over this before. It just doesn't work. I don't care how long it takes to drive between Twin Falls and, let's just say, Boise. There ain't no way you're going to get air service that anybody's going to get on at a price they're going to pay. Besides that, they don't really need to get there anymore. But are there movements of goods? Are there movements of medical supplies? Are there movements of people to a VA hospital? Things like that. We're looking at that as being the potential for some real growth going forward. But I think what I wanted to sort of touch on here is 2023 is going to be a very different year than 5 years ago or 4 years ago. Very different, which means we can't keep trying to approach air service access like we did before, like there's a grab bag of airlines out there. There aren't. Well, we have to look at how do we utilize our airport system to the best possible economic impact. Sometimes that means maybe we were not going to be able to get the air service we really need. Because remember, it's the consumer that makes the decision, not politicians. And having 2 flights a day at an airport when they can drive an hour and get 300 nonstops to the final destination is hard to compete. Anyway, that's where we stand. I thought we wanted to go over that in terms of this is what we're doing going forward. If you're interested in joining us, hey, give us a contact. We're at aviationplanning.com. We'd love to talk to you. If you have any questions about this or any concerns, hey, give us a call or give us an email. We'd love to talk with you on it. But 2023 is going to be a very exciting year, but it's going to be a year of change. And those airports and those communities that recognize the changes that are taking place, they're the ones that are going to prosper. Those that want to continue with the games we played over the last 3, 4, 5 years of just getting more airlines, they're going to be left in the dust. That's all there is to it. Anyway, I know that's kind of hard, but hey, we're here to help people, not to, if you want warm and fuzzies, get a puppy. We're not in that business. So give us a call if you need some consulting or air service development. We're here at Boyd Group International. It's aviationplanning.com. We'll be back next week with some other issues. We've touched on some of the other aviation issues in the past. What we're concerned about, I'll just lay this on downward. We're concerned about aviation security. We've had some incidents lately that lead us to some concern, but we'll talk about that later. In the meantime, need consulting, research, or forecasting, give us a call here at Boyd Group International, and have a great week ahead.